back to Indy Homestead. My name is Brittany.
I'm Chris.
And today we're doing an update video showing you guys what we've been doing over the last couple of years since we posted our original tour video. That was almost 2 years ago.
I can't believe it's been 2 years.
I can't either. A lot happened in 2 years and then some things did not happen. Just a little bit about us if you're new or if you don't remember who we are because it's been so long. We live
I kind of forgot about who we are.
Who are we? We live on about 4 acres in central Indiana. We are in zone 6. We've been doing a lot over the last couple of years and we've been documenting it. We just haven't been sharing it. Let's just hop in. To me, the first thing we need to talk about is chickens.
Why?
Because that's like that's the biggest thing we've probably done over the last couple of years is get our first animal.
That's true. It's like the first animal that we've had that isn't a pet.
Exactly. Because it was the first animal, we did have a huge learning curve and there was a lot of work that had to go into getting that whole operation started.
Yeah, I mean, we're basically starting from scratch. We basically had to start with like infrastructure.
We've got a video in the works.
Yes, we have a video in the works about chickens. We basically documented the whole process of us preparing for them, so like getting the coop ready, having that whole infrastructure in place, kind of go bit by bit what all is included with that. Not included in the video, but we learned how to process birds, process chickens. That was an experience in and of itself.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Woo! It ended up being great, but there was a lot to learn and like, I mean, you especially, you were the one getting in there.
Wrist deep. We ended up getting like 2 different kinds of chickens. We got meat birds and we got egg layers. So we processed the meat birds and we have them in our freezer, so that was one of our goals.
Yay!
We got that done. And then we also have 10, we have 9.
It was 10, and then last year, a hawk.
Decapitated it. Degloved it from the neck up.
That wasn't fun to walk outside too.
No, I'm glad I wasn't there.
Anyway, we don't talk about that.
We don't talk about that. But we have fresh eggs daily.
Every day.
Organic, free range.
And they're amazing. And then we sell the excess, thanks to your parents. You built the nesting boxes. That was neat.
Yeah, I got to flex my creative muscle by building a nesting box. Everything that I used I already had here, just like spare wood, 2x4s that were too short to really make anything useful out of. Just ripped them and whatever else was laying around. I think it turned out pretty well. And
so they're over a year old now. So next spring
we're gonna have to get some new ones.
We'll be thinking about new ones. You were so intense when you said that.
It's gonna be a big year. Because
Yeah.
not only are we talking about getting new meat birds, new egg layers, processing the old egg layers, and sheep.
Which is a good segue.
It is a good segue. I did that on purpose.
I'd say if we had to like list the 2 things that were the biggest on our property, it would be the chickens and it would be the pasture. And so that's related to sheep. So do you want to take that and run with it? What's going on with the pasture?
I mean, the pasture was a whole endeavor in and of itself. If you look back at our initial tour video, you saw what the pasture was looking like. I mean, we had weeds like 7 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
We had a little maple, I don't know what you call it, like a grove. We had to clear all that out and turn that into actual functioning pasture, and we're kind of just now at that tipping point where it's gonna be, I mean, it looks amazing, honestly. I mean, we did all that by hand.
You and your dad.
Did all that by hand, minimal herbicide. I think we did it pretty cheap too. The only real cost was the cost of seed and the cost of
your body suffering.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
The pasture is ready for sheep next year then.
Yes. And also included with the pasture. So not only are we planning on having these sheep on this pasture that we just converted, but we're also trying to adopt the mindset that the homestead in and of itself is an ecosystem. As with most properties these days, it's very linear as far as what species of plants are involved. Monoculture type lawns, like super manicured lawns. So really trying to bump up that biodiversity by introducing some native species throughout the pasture. As it stands right now, a couple of the corners where I don't think I can fit equipment into for maintenance purposes, they're being dedicated to these natural food plots for the free range chickens and also whatever might want to live in there, quail. We have a couple bob white quails that sing to us. I don't know what they do. I mean, they say Bob White.
Bob what?
Very good.
And so essentially, our entire property, but especially the pasture, we're really trying to make sure that it is
big picture,
that it's actually beneficial not just within and of itself, but to the surroundings that it's in.
Like, not only do we want something to serve an intended purpose, and we only have 4 acres, we're trying to maximize what we can do on those 4 acres. So pasture, fantastic, but it's also this biodiverse bank, essentially. You've got all these different species that are, you know, integrated with one another. Coming up in the winter here, we're gonna be overseeding or frost seeding a native diverse grass and forb mixture, trying to further convert that pasture into something that's self-sustainable. That's huge. Is I don't want to do any maintenance on it, or minimal maintenance, and I want it to be able to support my animals and then anything else that would be naturally living there. I just want the pasture to reflect what would have been there had humans not intervened a couple hundred years ago.
Yeah, permaculture. Permaculture. That's what, we always have that in the back of our minds with everything we're doing. I feel like so much of what we've done over the last 2 years that we haven't shown, but we will be showing, is very much so with this concept of how do we make, not only make our world better, but make the world surrounding us a better place, and further integrating that into what would regionally be here. And so speaking of permaculture, we did last year post a video highlighting in detail our process of planting cover crop over our septic field. Even at that time, we had no clue what we were gonna be planting permanently. We just knew we wanted it to be dual purpose. We wanted it to function as a septic leach field, but also add something.
We didn't want it to be lawn either.
Exactly. We didn't want it to just sit there and take up space. And so instead of just letting it go to lawn and basically sit there, we decided to plant a seed mixture of native plants, native flowers. It became a spot for pollinators to come, and it really has attracted so many bugs.
Yeah, not just pollinators. I mean, we've got a whole gamut of invertebrates and birds. It's this whole revolving door that kind of feeds itself.
And it's beautiful. It's like you get to watch it shift over each week and month. It's been really the first season we've been able to enjoy it. And of course, all of the plants that you chose are native.
Zero maintenance. How many times did I have to water anything this year?
None.
None times.
None times.
Yeah, none times.
None times.
None times
for fun times.
That's what I was gonna say. I want to be a lazy homesteader. I want to be able to do something once, do it right, and have it keep going without hardly any input.
And so next up is the bioswale.
What's a bioswale?
A bioswale is what's sitting right out here out the window.
For people that can't see out the window, what is a bioswale?
It's like a ditch.
Yeah, it's
That's
a ditch.
what it looks like to me.
The bioswale is where all the rainwater from the house and the yard, because it's kind of on a slope, ends up. So it's our yard, this little ditch sort of, and then it's cropland. It's kind of in this awkward spot. You couldn't really utilize it for anything that was functional, because there'd be times in the year it would totally flood, you'd have standing water, and I don't want to mow. So
Yeah.
I did the same thing I did on the septic field. I chose a different variety of plant species, but we ended up planting this bioswale mixture. It's taken off and become this whole habitat in and of itself.
This particular area of our yard, it really sees the most extreme conditions. It's either flooded or it's a drought, or I mean it has to be plants that can withstand being in those conditions, and so far so good. It's been wonderful. And you planted some trees.
I did. I planted some trees. Wow, it sounds like we've done a whole lot. How has the garden been going?
You dirty dog. I'm not in tears. I think it was last year we posted those garden videos. I posted 3 in a series of like starting a garden from scratch on lawn. And last year I had the most abundant, beautiful garden. We canned salsa, we canned relish, we froze green beans, we ate fresh food all the time. Like, what?
And zucchini coming out of.
We did. We had so much zucchini. And we grew pumpkins. I mean, I grew all kinds of stuff there. It was so much we couldn't keep up. And so fast forward to this year, I did plant a few things. We did eat a few things. I'm getting a few tomatoes right now, but it's nowhere near what it was last year, and it's kind of a mess right now. And so my hope is that next year I will continue what we started last year. And I did learn a lot of new skills, like with the canning and just learning about plants in general, that whole learning curve. I miss it. I miss the scale of garden I had last year, but it's okay to take a break. It's fine. So right now the garden is kind of dormant, but as a segue, it may actually end up being converted to food forest. That's another project that we've been working on. I don't even know if we mentioned that in our original tour video.
I don't think so.
Since then, we decided to try to implement a food forest, and we're in the infancy stage of that project, but we did plant a couple of raspberry plants, some strawberry plants, and it's underneath that beautiful sycamore tree. That plot is actually right next to where my current garden is, and it may end up just absorbing it and becoming a food forest and moving my garden.
You know what's super cool?
What's super cool?
That the flowers from the bioswale will be like mingling, yeah. We'll have pollinators over there and they'll pollinate over there. So like we've got things happening.
Sounds like a party. We don't know what the trajectory of that plot is, but at the very least we know
the moon!
At the very least we know that some of it is already dedicated to this food forest concept. We will be documenting that. And so next on the list is kind of more of a general category rather than a specific project, but we have a lot of DIY type of projects in the works. One of those things being your trailer.
Yeah, I mean the leaf vac, that's already a working thing. I've just been working on improving it slightly. I really haven't done any major changes to it. It's more the trailer and making that a more smooth and functioning system.
But that'll be coming up in a video as well,
yeah.
Highlighting some of those changes.
So another project I've been working on, or I've got in the works here, it was kind of bred out of necessity. Watching the pasture grow this year, and it just exploded. It's huge. Obviously at that point I can't use my mower to cut it down and keep it maintained. So I looked at that and it made me think how I'm gonna maintain the pasture in the future. And if I ever wanted to overwinter animals, I need hay. But I don't want to pay for hay.
I don't want to pay for it either.
No, I'd much rather just figure out a way to do it myself. So I'm gonna come up with a way to cut and harvest the hay.
And not need a tractor.
And not need a tractor, right. We don't have access to a tractor, so everything that we do is either by hand or we have to think of a way to accomplish it. So what I'm trying to do is bridge the gap between those individuals that have tractors and acres to maintain versus us who only have a couple acres.
With small amounts of equipment. Nothing exists to be able to do this job of harvesting hay for anyone that doesn't own a tractor, as far as we know.
Yeah, everything requires a power takeoff.
And so what you're trying to do, without giving too many details, is create something, build something that you can have that function without having to invest in a tractor.
Right.
And so stay tuned for that. There are a few things that we've touched on in past videos that we didn't actually get to. One of those things was our barn. We have not done anything with our barn other than converting one of the stalls into a chicken coop.
Yeah, right.
That's it. So it's still a mess, just like we said last time 2 years ago. We're gonna probably be having it looked at by a barn expert in the near future.
Yeah.
And then we also have that pig barn, and we've got a few ideas floating around for what we want to do with that. One of those is making it into a garage for our cars.
Yeah, I mean that would just free up space for the barn to actually do what barns are supposed to do.
We have a lot going on. We have a lot in the works, and we have a lot of plans for the future, and so we're excited to kind of get back into the sharing part of this adventure. We've got all the footage. So much footage. So we're excited to finally start sharing again. So all the things we talked about will be a video coming up. And so if any of that interests you at all, make sure to subscribe, follow along. If you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye guys.
Bye. Want me to start?
Cool. Let's do it. Let's talk. My favorite thing to do.
You love to talk.
It's hot in here.
I'm sweating. So I think the first thing we need to talk about is chickens.
Why?
So I think the first thing we need to talk about is chickens.
We have a video coming out that's highlighting that whole process of us getting the chickens and supporting their needs. I don't know.
So what we ended up deciding was to plant native species. I don't know. Is it an animal or an insect? I don't know.
What color is it?
And so, so if you like this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and we'll see you in the next one.
I love you.